The lost wreck of U-869, secrets beneath the sea. A sunken vessel, lost to time, hidden beneath layers of secrecy, silt, and corrosion. But as they penetrated the cold steel husk of a shipwreck, what they uncovered would shake the very foundation of naval history. The rusted walls of this underwater tomb seemed to whisper secrets long buried, fragments of a narrative that had never been told. It was more than a relic. It was a sealed chapter of World War II that defied official records and raised unsettling questions about what truly happened in those final chaotic days of the war. What lay beneath wasn't just a ship. It was a mystery that had eluded historians, military officials, and the families of the fallen for decades. The wreck in question turned out to be U-869, one of Nazi Germany's long-range, deep-diving Type IXC-40 U-boats. Designed to roam vast stretches of ocean undetected, this 250-foot war machine was outfitted with 6 torpedo tubes and manned by a crew hardened for stealth warfare. These submarines were engineered to be lethal and elusive, luxury sedans of underwater destruction, meant to haunt Allied shipping lanes with silent precision. U-869 was launched in 1943 and, like so many others of its kind, became a ghost during the final months of the war. According to wartime documentation, the U-boat had been assigned to patrol the Strait of Gibraltar, a narrow maritime choke point fraught with danger and congestion. Its mission was to intercept and disrupt Allied operations before slipping away undetected. In February 1945, a United States Coast Guard cutter reported that a German U-boat had been sunk near Gibraltar. The Allies swiftly closed the case, crediting themselves with a kill. They assumed it was U-869, filed the paperwork, and moved on. For the next 40 years, that version of events went unchallenged. There were no sonar confirmations, no wreckage, no physical evidence, just a wartime report hastily compiled in the fog of battle. The submarine's fate became a forgotten footnote. Another casualty in the vast theater of oceanic warfare. Families of the 56 German sailors believed to have perished had no bodies to bury, no answers, just a memorial and a question mark. Not even historians bothered to probe deeper. The Atlantic was a war zone, after all, and record-keeping during conflict was more about surviving the next skirmish than preserving the truth. The coordinates had been guessed, conclusions drawn, and the world moved on. But U-869 never got the memo. It had been rerouted, and was far from where anyone had assumed. What truly happened would remain unknown until a group of curious divers stumbled onto a hidden truth buried beneath 60 years of saltwater silence. U-869's final mission was marked by bureaucratic confusion and miscommunication. On December 29, 1944, U-Boat Command initially ordered U-869 to patrol waters off the New Jersey coast. However, fuel concerns led to a change in orders. U-869 was told to redirect toward waters west of Gibraltar, excluding the strait itself. Despite attempts to contact the submarine with these updates, U-869 never acknowledged the new orders. The last radio transmission from the boat came on January 10, 1945, reporting its fuel supply, without confirming its position or receipt of the revised instructions. Based on this, German command assumed the vessel had shifted course as directed and ultimately declared it lost in the Gibraltar region. That assumption became the official narrative. For the next 4 decades, the story of U-869 remained closed. But history has a way of unearthing itself, sometimes quite literally. Fast forward to the summer of 1991. Off the coast of Point Pleasant, New Jersey, a group of passionate wreck divers were scanning the ocean floor for uncharted wrecks. Among them were John Chatterton and Richie Kohler, 2 of the most accomplished and fearless technical divers on the East Coast. Unlike casual hobbyists, these men dove with mixed gas, braved near-freezing temperatures, and descended into lightless, twisted metal caverns hundreds of feet below the surface. That summer, their sonar picked up an unusual blip roughly 60 miles offshore. At a depth of 230 feet, they expected to find a fishing trawler or merchant ship. What they discovered instead was a long, sleek object that bore the unmistakable outline of a submarine. Their first dive was chaotic. The current was strong, visibility was terrible, and everything about the wreck exuded an eerie tension. The structure was warped, wrapped in fishing nets, and blanketed in darkness. The feeling was claustrophobic, like crawling through a haunted cave where one wrong move could cost you your life. Still, they knew this was no ordinary wreck. There were no identifying markers, no hull number, no insignia, nothing to confirm what kind of ship it had been. According to all known naval records, no German U-boat had ever been lost anywhere near New Jersey. The nearest documented U-boat activity during that phase of the war was thousands of miles away. So what was this? As they delved deeper, both physically and historically, they began to realize they had uncovered a ghost. They called it U-Who. Over the next few years, Chatterton and Kohler returned to the wreck site repeatedly. Each dive was an exercise in precision and danger, involving complex decompression schedules and the constant threat of disorientation or death. But slowly, the wreck began to reveal its secrets. First came German-labeled gauges and metric dials. Then sealed compartments that were eerily intact, untouched for decades. But the moment that changed everything came when they discovered a simple, corroded butter knife engraved with the name Horenberg. That one artifact led them to George Horenberg, a real crew member listed on the manifest for U-869. Suddenly, the impossible was proven. The mysterious wreck was the long-lost U-869, sitting not near Gibraltar as believed, but in American waters, 60 miles off New Jersey. That revelation only led to more troubling questions. What had sunk it? Why had it been so catastrophically misidentified for decades? And why had no one ever come looking? With the Horenberg clue in hand, the divers dove even deeper into German shipyard records. They traced serial numbers, matched engine components, and compared construction logs from the Deskamag AG Weser shipyard, which had built U-869. Every detail aligned. This ghost sub, lost in confusion and buried by bureaucracy, was undeniably the real U-869. It had vanished in plain sight, overlooked by history and rediscovered not by governments or militaries, but by two relentless divers with an obsession for the truth. But the story didn't end there. As Chatterton and Kohler pieced together the fateful last mission of U-869, they uncovered yet another twist. There had been a 57th crew member. His name was Herbert Grzewski. He had trained with the rest of the crew, lived among them, prepared for the mission, and memorized the escape drills. Yet just days before the U-boat was to depart, he had fallen gravely ill. That illness saved his life. Grzewski was reassigned, and when the U-boat left harbor, he wasn't on board. For decades, he lived unaware of the fate of his crewmates. When the wreck was finally identified, Grzewski was the only living survivor of a mission he never completed. His testimony, combined with the divers' research, added a human dimension to the cold steel and historical confusion. The mystery of what exactly sunk U-869 remains debated. Some believe it was an accidental self-inflicted detonation, one of its torpedoes detonating in the launch tube during preparation. Others suggest it fell victim to depth charges deployed by nearby American ships unaware of its exact location. What's certain is that the final moments were sudden and catastrophic, sealing the fate of the 56 souls aboard. U-869 is now more than a wreck. It's a symbol of the hidden truths scattered across the ocean floor. It's a reminder that history is often messier than the records suggest, and that real answers may lie rusting in the dark. Today, the submarine rests silently off the coast of New Jersey, a protected war grave and testament to the persistence of those who seek the truth, not with weapons, but with curiosity, courage, and a deep respect for those who never came home. The rediscovery of U-869 not only rewrote naval history but also illustrated the profound difference between official narratives and the reality buried beneath decades of bureaucratic oversight. When John Chatterton and Richie Kohler first stumbled upon the wreck, they couldn't have known they were about to dismantle one of World War II's most enduring maritime assumptions. Their mission began with curiosity and became an obsession, one that would take them into the abyss time and time again. The wreck did not give up its secrets easily. It was a labyrinth of rusted corridors and mangled compartments, each dive a high-stakes descent into history where a single mistake could mean death. Yet they persevered, drawn by the notion that they were chasing a ghost with a story the world had forgotten. The deeper they explored, the more they pieced together. Each discovery, a valve labeled in German, a pressure gauge marked in metric, a uniquely configured electrical panel, pointed toward German engineering and Cold War-era obfuscation. None of it fit the official records. The biggest revelation, however, was the confirmation that this wreck was U-869. The discovery of Horenberg's butter knife was more than an emotional artifact, it was forensic proof. It connected names to steel, identity to wreckage, and shattered the long-held belief that U-869 had perished near Gibraltar. That one item turned a mystery wreck into a historical landmark. But Chatterton and Kohler weren't satisfied with identifying the sub. They wanted to understand why it had ended up off the coast of New Jersey, so far from its supposed mission area. They turned to declassified German documents, American naval archives, and conducted interviews with aging veterans and naval intelligence officers. They even consulted explosive ordnance experts to evaluate the damage pattern. What emerged was a chilling portrait of a submarine caught between bad luck, technological failure, and strategic miscommunication. It's likely that the crew of U-869, unaware of their change in orders, had continued toward the American coast on their original heading. Possibly detecting an Allied presence nearby, they may have attempted to dive deep and ready their weapons. One theory posits that a torpedo, either armed prematurely or jarred loose by a depth charge, detonated inside the sub's forward compartment. This tragic error would have been instantaneous. No chance for escape, no distress signal, no counterattack. Just a steel coffin spiraling down in silence. The idea that U-869 was inadvertently sunk by its own crew or mechanical failure rather than by enemy fire only adds to the tragic irony. It's a stark reminder that not all wartime casualties are inflicted by the enemy. Some are the result of fog-of-war missteps, technical malfunctions, or poor communication between command and combatant. Adding to the somber complexity was the story of Herbert Grzewski. His survival, an accident of fate, humanized the wreck more than any artifact or document could. Imagine carrying the knowledge that your survival was the result of an illness, a twist of chance that spared you while dooming your comrades. For Grzewski, the wreck's discovery brought closure but also reopened wounds long scarred over. His voice, once thought lost in the murk of time, was now central to the story of U-869, bringing emotional resonance to an otherwise cold tale of steel, sonar, and saltwater. Today, U-869 lies at rest, designated a war grave under international law. Divers still visit, but with a new reverence. It's not just a wreck anymore, it's a memorial. Flowers have been placed on the hull, German flags left folded by the entry hatch, and memorial dives conducted in honor of the men who perished in silence. The site, now a protected area, continues to attract historians, documentarians, and curious explorers, all drawn by the haunting allure of a story once buried but now laid bare by perseverance and passion. Chatterton and Kohler's journey was later chronicled in books, documentaries, and the acclaimed PBS Nova episode Hitler's Lost Sub. Their work brought global attention not only to U-869 but to the entire field of wreck diving as a legitimate form of historical investigation. They proved that divers weren't just thrill-seekers or hobbyists, they were explorers, archivists of the deep, capable of unlocking long-lost truths sealed in rust and darkness. Perhaps most importantly, the tale